Private Living, October 2026. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We had a technical problem in the very first video, considering the real-time monitoring of our life. The energy was cut, the video probably was interrupted. We will work and continue with the work as having the idea as machine learning as total, make decision workflow. We will have that this idea here indeed will present the array of mistakes systematically compiled by behavior that you observe at the use of institutional power by the human resource representing the institution. They will be under international martial trial if the institutional power as a state or institution or company got misused by criminal purpose that indeed has no excuse to be made. We will observe one more time that the factoring as financial research as financial operation will allow the criminal research. Observe that we have budgets, account, bank accounts, budget decisions, and contracts with signatures. Will be an empty interval at the line, not satisfying expectation and really basic things like the transparency or the reliability that you must do. And then we will contaminate, for instance, the bank system to keep the lie. We will observe that the model is quite simple. In general, we will always have a segmented interval inside the space, and this segmented interval will unveil a space as itself, parallel and going by things that do not accomplish the general premises of your company, business, or activity. Will unveil that if you have a parallel system with autonomy, setting crisis, keeping rights unsatisfied, and boosting the crisis to have the instability of very basic things, and the regular area has no autonomy to do the decision against the organized crime because nowadays there are no institution able to do decision against the organized crime total strictly and without suffering any kind of consequence or at least embarrassing situation about this. The idea will be that the organized crime took or reduced the autonomy as make decision process. For instance, at the antitrust justice that has problem to do decision against a trust scam, which is a scheme of exploitation, oppression, and suppression of rights, considering the combination between corporations and the public corruption, both solidarity and corruption, and will offer the regular flow of your rights and guarantees or rational expectation after choke this. If this go by misuse of power, the issue must be at the International Criminal Court. But since you could observe the lobby nepotism as part of corruption to fill the chair, of course, that the International Criminal Court or any other institution all around as a global phenomenon will have this problem as pandemic mobilization of crime. But sometimes you do this in an area that you has no guarantee, no excuse to do this. And I will or anyone suffer this, for instance, having a guarantee as national or foreigner, call the attention, setting an interval as compensation basic rights to the public corporations and the public power, national, domestic or international, doing the violation of guarantees like your privacy, private living, or work, intellectual effort in an area that has no excuse, indeed must kind of be obliged to present the dismissal list. And it's a list that can be qualified, right, by the array that we could observe as a systematical thing. We observe that the fixed debt and the discretionary debt indeed will be used as an excuse according with the center of interest that you will take advantage. If you consider that you take advantage by discretionary debt, you will keep your people unsatisfied. If you must do the payment, you will have an excuse that can do the payment because you must satisfy the needs of your people. But in both cases, you are satisfying your own interest. And it's named self-dealing. It's a good reason to have, heads on courts. We observe that this model here indeed will allow me to get the function as pattern I have with the variable as a standardized pattern that I must follow will be related with rational expectation that I must accomplish. If I have the function as financial payment, the contract use or the situation that must represent the obligation as payment will be regular paid and the satisfaction of the right of the obligation and the expectation will be okay. But if it's not, the functional payment will be the functional default using frauds on instruments to have in order to have the expectations not satisfied. But as you told, this kind of thing, at least by the behavior of the paycheck, that is something that we complain systematically continued and with incremental value associated on it, expose the pattern as criminal use of state and institutional power continued, systematically made, and without intention as quit or stop. It's something intentional, it's named criminal intent. It was made in an area, for instance, that has no excuse to do. I think that the array that we will have, indeed we will have the array filled like this. We will consider the rational architecture, my global system, that has 1 up to 20 and 107 nations, and we will get the behavior of, for instance, one specific nation or institution or chair or architecture that I'm having here, and we will observe that each observation that I do, and it doesn't imply a judge, a CEO, but the people that is represented by the users of institutional and state power, getting even more frustrated day by day, indeed their experience and witnessing the treasonous acts at the use of state and institutional power qualified as misuse of state and institutional power by the quality of misusers of state and institutional power. In general, this quality is a negative thing that not have illicit or a criminal activity, heads on courts. And this array filled here now will be a machine learning. Understand that the pattern codified, for instance, this way will allow to put the cognition as machine learning about the failure as institutional and state corruption, and the machine will enact the order as a defensive order against the institution or the chair, and the order can be, for instance, a seizure and the officers must accomplish, or the prison of the CEO or the president or a Congress chair. and the officer must accomplish. Indeed, we are cutting the human resource as element or gateway to satisfy the institutional expectation frustrated, which in general is continued, frustrated by the corrupted notation as gateway human resource. That is the link between the distortions and turbulence, distortions at the past with the decision expected on present time to prevent the turbulence in the future. And the turbulence can be, for instance, all things were had, intentionally made to allow the intervention by institution and state with power misused for criminal purpose and wrongdoings at the chair level. They do not deserve be on it anymore because you have the machine with a total workflow presented as self-defense, and it's part of my self-determination against this evil model as pandemic mobilization of crimes that did the violation of rights and guarantees in an area without excuse to do this. And if you consider the USA or Europe, there are no institutional prerogative or premise that allow the criminal use of state and institutional power, charged that this solidarity corruption, which is a trust scam, by the power misused, complained also at the International Criminal Court, the antitrust justice or the judicial power USA or Europe, or even the Court of Justice as International Criminal Court, will be strong enough as having the decision by a machine and having no interest, for instance, at the decision made by a corrupted human resource, which is the weakness and break point between the health future deserved, fixed on present time, based on the lack of will and complaints made in the future since at least 1920, right? This is the idea of the security forum. I have no lights, but as you can observe, I shine always by myself. Have a great day.